and My Girl joins us.
Leave me flat. She's not a girl like that. She's absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Well, our next guest currently is starring in the company of the smash British well, all over the country, actually. It's a musical, Me and My Girl. It's at the Fisher Theater. His work on Broadway, starring as Mozart in Amadeus, earned him a Tony Award nomination as Best Actor. He's recorded 3 albums of songs. He's appeared in motion pictures as diverse as Annie and the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Please welcome Tim Curry. And I should also point out that you did indeed perform last night.
I did, yes.
And you had to crawl out of bed this morning to be with us. And
I thought I might actually come out here on all fours.
You were in Hair, too.
I was, yes, that was my first job.
You weren't the guy that...
most of us did, yes.
Oh, sorry.
Most of us did. We were naive enough to.
Would you do that today, Tim?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I wouldn't want to scare anybody away.
Do you have any particular memories of the opening night of Hair when you were on stage, and there was the audience, and the time came to take it all off?
No, really. I mean, well, in England, you know, they have, I don't know whether they do that in the States. I haven't noticed in any of the theaters that we've played. But in England, they have little binoculars that you can put in I think it was sixpence then. It would be like, I don't know, 50 cents. And a little spring opens, and you can take out the binoculars. So the one thing I do remember from the nude scene in Hair is that when the lights went down, which they did, thank goodness, you could hear this sort of rattle around the theater as the money went into the... as the money went into the binoculars. That's about all I remember.
Couldn't hear any
except for people, you know, standing up and forgetting to take their socks off and things.
Then you went into the stage version, the original version of the Rocky Horror Show, as it was called on stage.
Yeah, that was sort of sometime later, yeah.
And then you did the Rocky
Horror Picture Show.
Horror Picture Show.
Yes.
I'm like a picture show in there, yes.
Yeah.
And that goes on forever and ever in this country. You
yes.
know that. Do you ever get a little concerned that you'll never be remembered for anything but that?
Well, there's not much point in being concerned about it, really. You know, I mean, I think you just do what you do, and people remember you for what they remember you. You can't really be the judge of that, or really change that too much. I mean, what's really nice about the Rocky Horror Picture Show going on as it has is that every year it introduces another bunch of people to my work. And if they want to see me do anything else, you know, they're able to.
You are.
I mean, I'm very proud of it. I'm very glad that I did it, and I'm extremely proud that it's probably the longest running movie ever made.
You're an extraordinarily versatile performer, and you managed to do a wide variety of roles. You wrote Shakespeare, a great deal of it, a musical comedy, as you're doing now, and a classic, and things we've just talked about. Do you have any, and you also, I recall reading that you felt it was time to do Me and My Girl because you'd done so many dark roles, you called them.
Yeah, well, I have played a lot of dark roles. I mean, I've played a lot of villains and psychopaths of one kind or another. I mean, that's partly because they're really the most interesting roles to play. I mean, the heroes are usually pretty dull roles to play. You know, you smile a lot and you get the girl, and who cares? You know, I mean, whereas the villains or the you know the more kind of off-center people are much more interesting to play. But after a while, you know, taking home a psychopath at the end of the day is not a lot of fun, you know. So I thought it'd be really nice to play somebody just very sunny and optimistic and kind of really rather closer to my own personality, really. I think it's partly because of, you know, one's face. I mean, if you have a very boldly drawn kind of face...
Safe to say you do.
That's sort of what you get asked to do.
So it's going to be interesting, I think, later this month, a motion picture called Pass the Ammo is being released, wherein you play the Reverend Ray.
The Reverend Ray, yes.
And Reverend Ray is a Southern televangelist.
That's right.
Who ain't too sweet.
No, he's not very... Well, he's actually... he's very... I mean, people adore him until they find that, you know, he has very serious feet of clay. I get to faith heal, which is fun.
Cure them, chase out those stones, throw away those crutches.
I cure one or two people, and I do a sort of hellfire sermon, which was fun. And Annie Potts from Designing Women is playing my wife, Darla, and she's pretty hot, too.
You've got the dialect rather well.
Well, we shot the movie in Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
And when people were being interviewed to be extras, they taped them all and sent them to me. So I listened to nothing but Arkansas voices for something like 3 or 4 weeks. And it was great fun to do. It's a comedy. I mean, it's a satire, really. But it was very extraordinary because when we were shooting it, the day that I shot the scene where it became quite clear that I'd slept with half the angelic choir, we went home to the hotel to find Jessica Hahn on TV. I mean... which was sort of life imitating art. You know? And in fact, they just released it in Los Angeles a week after Jimmy Swaggart's confession. So really, it really couldn't be a better time to film.
No. But this was actually done before the first scandal broke.
Absolutely, yes.
Everybody's going to read more into it than that, of course.
Well, I think so, yes.
So you're going to be on the road, in the theater, doing this wonderful musical, which I want to talk about in a moment. And at the same time, you're going to be on the giant screen as a totally bad guy. They'll never recognize you because the accents are different. You don't have to worry.
It's true, it's true.
We'll take a break and be right back with the versatile Tim Curry.
Next week.
From transsexual Transylvania.
Well, he smiled. Me and My Girl, a revival. Has it been updated since the 30s?
Only a very little. Partly because when they went to revive it, there were various pieces of the script missing. So a lot of it has been reconstructed from memory. The producer who revived it was in fact the son of the composer. And he had to do an enormous amount of research to find everything and try and piece it all together. One song was found in the family attic. One song was found in the archives of the BBC. And the script is a kind of huge bunch of old jokes, really. So where there weren't any old jokes, we just remembered some others. So, no, it really hasn't been updated. No, it's very firmly set in the late 30s in England.
You have a ton of business through and you're on stage the entire production.
Yes.
Is any of the business from Lupino Lane?
Absolutely. Well, the play was written as a vehicle for Lupino Lane, who was a hugely successful vaudeville comic, a sort of physical comedian. And he was famous as a tumbler and a pratfall merchant, really. So a lot of the stage business that he did was very clear in a lot of people's memories. And people used to come into rehearsal and say, oh, I've just remembered this bit with the cloak, you know, which is actually fascinating because it's like reviving history, really.
I saw Me and My Girl last Saturday. I thought it was wonderful, and years ago saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I know you said the villains are more colorful to play. What do you like, being best the good guy or the bad guy?
Well, I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying being a good guy. I mean, one of the things about bad guys is that you have to leave them behind at the theater or at the film studio, you know, because if you bring them home, you know, it leads to a very tough life, really. But the nice thing about playing Bill is really, it's sort of like playing the best part of yourself, and I'm very happy to bring him home.
You've also done the Rocky Horror movie show, and that seems to have developed quite a cult following in this country.
Yes, it has.
Do you understand that? Could you explain why?
I'm not really entirely sure why. I think one of the reasons is that it largely plays in campus towns and very often in sort of campus movie theaters. And I think one of the reasons that it's lasted so long is that it's the only guaranteed weekend party. So that if Friday night or Saturday night comes around and you don't have a serious date, you know that you're going to have a good time at the Rocky Horror Picture Show. So, I mean, I think that's probably one of the reasons why it's done so well. And it's a kind of, it's also become a sort of rite of passage, I think. You know, gee, Mom, am I old enough to go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show? Interestingly enough, I met a very, very interesting lady in San Francisco who's using the movie as therapy for teenage kids who have either been abused by their families or who are coming out of drug therapy. And they join the cast of their Rocky Horror Picture Show, and they find that it's enormously useful in giving them confidence, which I think is really rather marvelous.
Hi, Tim.
Hello.
I thought you were wonderful in Rocky Horror. Oh, I adore you, but most of all, when you were on Saturday Night Live and you did a Mick Jagger interpretation, just one Mick Jagger face, please.
I can't get, no.
You are... I use the phrase enormously talented, and there just isn't any question of it. And me and my gal, my girl, you tap, you do other dancing, you sing, big voice, enormous voice, the one-liners, the toughest stuff in the world. Yeah.
I was just wondering how you got your big break and how your acting career began. I'm waiting for my big break now.
Well, I was...
Maybe if you play your cards right.
I was enormously lucky. I did a drama degree at a university in England. There were only about 3 universities then that actually did them. And at the end of it, I went down to London and I stayed with a friend whose brother was an actor, and I met his agent. And he told me that they were looking for people for hair. And I went to audition. I mean, they had open auditions for it because it was a very hard show to cast. It was the first rock and roll musical there was, really. And it was very difficult for them to find people who could both act and sing rock and roll, really. So that the people they found didn't really, only about half of them were equity members. I mean, I got an instant equity card, which was just so lucky. Because usually in England, you have to work outside London for 40 weeks consecutively.
What? 40 consecutive weeks?
Well, you have to have had 40 weeks. Yeah. And at least 4 of them at a time have to be consecutive to even work in the West End of London. So I was enormously lucky, and having started, I mean, I lied through my teeth. I mean, I told them that I had an equity card. I told them that I'd done tours of cabaret and stuff. And by the time that they discovered I didn't have an equity card, they wanted me in the show, and they got me in, so I was terribly lucky.
Well, our time is gone, unfortunately. This show is just marvelous. It's at the Fisher through the 24th of April.
That's right.
Me and My Girl. And it's old-fashioned in the best sense of the word. Songs, jokes, witty sayings, big, luscious sets. Beginning of the second act will knock your socks off. And in no small part, it is due to the fine work of Tim Curry. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back.